So I would like to introduce to everyone a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Thomas Dolby. How are you this morning, Thomas?
Very well, Michael. Good to see you. Oh, do you really want to say this morning?
It still feels like morning to me, but I'm a third shift guy. So yeah, it is this afternoon. That's right. Depending on where you're at, right? So, but thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. Just want to keep it short and sweet. For those who have been under a rock for the past 30, 40 years, who may not know who you are, would you mind just giving a general description of your career?
That's hard to do. I mean, I started life as a synthesist, started writing songs, recording, making videos on MTV, sort of switched to games and interactive and the internet in the 90s. Started my own company, Beatnik, which made software that was used in billions of cell phones. And then I kind of semi-retired and came back as an educator. And I'm now a professor at Johns Hopkins University, the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore, Maryland, USA, which is where I am today.
That's wonderful. I need to bring it back around then. Sometime in the mid to late 80s, I guess this would have been during the height of your popular music career. Someone approached you to be in a film called ROCKULA, which has become sort of a cult classic. Do you recall how it was that you became involved in this film project?
I don't remember very much about it. You know, I was living in Hollywood at the time. My wife, Kathleen, is a successful actor. I was moving somewhat in those circles. I'd done little bits and pieces of cameos and things. You know, I did the music for Howard the Duck, the songs for it, and with George Lucas, and I got a little cameo in that. I'd done a TV show or two. And so I guess I came to the attention of the filmmakers as a potential for the role of Stanley. I remember slightly going into the interview and them asking me to run through a variety of British accents to see what they thought was appropriate, sort of ranging from a very sort of Royal Amateur Dramatic Association sort of, you know, theatrical thing, you know, through to an East End businessman, you know, that was like had a chain of death parks in California, right? So
yes, Stanley's Death Park.
I remember sort of flipping through those, but I mean, in the course of the interviews, we brainstormed the sort of profile of Stanley's character, and I think it was actually during the interviews we sort of came up with the idea that he would be the kind like a used car salesman who did, you know, a series of TV ads promoting his death parks.
Yes, those are some of the funniest scenes in the film. I think I mentioned this during our 30th anniversary reunion last year, but your character happens to have my favorite moment in the film. He's dressed as a pirate, of course, and he's in a bathroom stall fitting on his peg leg, and he comes out of the bathroom stall and he can't balance himself, so he just falls on the ground and says, "God damn it." It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in any movie. Have you seen the movie yourself yet?
I saw it at the time when it was first finished. Haven't watched it since then. It's probably about time.
Yeah, we're having a special viewing of it right before this interview. Basically, the fans want to know at this point, what are we about to reveal to them, and how did that come about?
Okay, well, towards the end, I do remember details of this. Towards the end of the production shooting schedule on ROCKULA, we were running out of budget, running out of money. You know, we were really stretching people's willingness to, you know, to be flexible with their hours. And we had issues with equipment and crew and locations and things like that. And what we'd planned to do was to set up the sort of the lab, as it were, at my death park, where the treatment of the cadavers is done, you know, prior to funerals. And this would be sort of my parlor, basically. This is a place where I hang out, you know, in my smoking jacket. And, you know, the idea was for me to sing a song there. And I had a favorite song by a musician called Tom Lehrer, who was a very popular and very outrageous sort of spoof satirical songwriter in the, I guess, the 60s, 50s and 60s. He came to the fore. And he had this wonderful song called I Hold Your Hand in Mine, which sort of sounds like a sort of beautiful, I don't know, Noel Coward ballad or something, from the mid-century, although it has a wicked twist to it. So the plan was for us to shoot this. So we set up, it was the last day of shooting, and they did a beautiful job setting up the location for this. And they had the camera positioned for the first shot, sort of the master. What they didn't have was any audio playback. So they said, well, look, can you go ahead and sing the song a cappella, even though there's no music for you to sing to? And maybe we can add the music in later. And I said, oh yeah, well, I can probably do that. So we went ahead and shot it. And after the one take from the one camera angle, the union guy came in and said, right, that's it. Pull the plug on everything. So that was all we had, right? So this was obviously not usable in the film as it stood. And so the producers said to me, look, we need something else, for that slot. Can we just use a different one of your songs, like, a already recorded song? And I said, well, normally that would be licensed for a fee. And of course they had no budget left. And I said, well, look, I'll tell you what, we'll barter it. Give me the footage from the death parlor scene. And I'll give you a free license to use my song Budapest by Blimp in the film.
It's a beautiful song, by the way.
Film can turned up, with like a few hundred feet of celluloid in it. And I put it into storage somewhere in California, like in a storage unit, and forgot all about it. Well, fast forward a few years to the efforts of yourself and your friends on the site to sort of, revive interest in this classic cult movie. And obviously, as the cast and crew were reminiscing, we were reminded that this scene had been shot and never used. So I decided to go back through the archives and see if I could find the storage container that contained this celluloid. And at great length, I found this sort of rusting tin, and in it was this celluloid still intact. So I sent it off to be digitized, and back came a digital copy. Although the person that digitized it said, it's not very good quality, and there's a couple of things missing in it, and there's no audio. Is that okay? I said, yeah, just send me what you have. And I then set about replacing the audio. So in order to do this, I had to effectively lip sync to my own singing voice. Number one, and then number two, add some accompaniment to that afterwards, some musical accompaniment to it. So it was a fairly complex piece of musical reverse engineering that it took to do this, but I think the result is rather spectacular. So I would like to share that right now with your viewers.
I hold your hand in mine, dear. I press it to my lips. I take a healthy bite from your dainty fingertips. My joy would be complete, dear, if you were only here. But instead I keep your hand as a precious souvenir. The night you died I cut it off. I really don't know why. For now each time I kiss it, I get bloodstains on my tie. I'm sorry now I killed you, for our love was something fine. Until they come to get me, I shall hold your hand in mine.
Professor Dolby, my mind is blown. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. You sound great. You mentioned there were a couple of minor flaws in the recording, and it just adds so much charm. It's almost like a silent film, with the graininess and everything. It's so interesting and quirky and unique. much like yourself. Can you describe what it was like, seeing that again for the first time?
Well, I was delighted that, I hadn't sort of bigged it up in my memory, and that because I remember at the time that, what a beautiful job they'd done with the lighting in there and smoke and the costume and makeup also, making my face up like I was wearing some weird sort of mortician's wax or something,
Yes.
Embalming fluid, on my face. And I just sort of love the idea of this character who when he's comfortable at home, relaxing, this is what he does. So I was really pleased at the way it looked, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work out, with the music. It was complicated because I sang a cappella, so with no pitching, and it was also rubato, meaning it's not like to a set metronome,
Right.
So it was like I was in my head, I was hearing a very fluid, expressive kind of accompaniment, so I had to match all of that up. But with modern technology is a lot. I couldn't have done that back then. Interestingly, it's like technology, digital audio workstations and plugins and things these days enable you to do stuff like this quite easily. But no, I just felt it would be a very nice coda to the whole Rockula canon, to bring
Yes,
this back to life and share it with you guys. So I hope the fans of Rockula enjoyed this little piece of cinematic archaeology.
Absolutely. This was a legend among us for many years. I told my wife, I said, I've been bugging him for 4 years about this. I can't believe it's actually come to fruition. So is this something you might present to your class as a sort of quirky exercise, and adding sound and effects and things?
They already think I'm pretty weird, Michael. I'm not sure if I would really, my class have mostly never heard of me, along with most people under 40, it's usually their parents or their teachers that said, you can go to Peabody and take a class from Dolby. And they're like, who? Yeah, it's a thought. It's a thought.
All right. Well, Professor Dolby, I cannot thank you enough for taking your time and your resources and putting that together for the fans. I know that your fans in particular are going to enjoy it as well. It's been a real treat, and I can't thank you enough.
All right, thanks, Michael.
Come to Stanley's, stands the man. Come to Stanley's, stands the man.